Hottie, a couple weeks ago, the Hammer and I went to a race in Fruita, Colorado, the Sarlacc Attack 50K. Gotta love the name. The first 40K of it was some of the best trail I have ever raced on. Just mile after mile of extraordinary high desert single track, and it was in remarkable condition. You'd think that since I am, in fact, a Fruita Monument High School alum, I would have a better sense of what great riding is in the area. But things have changed there since I was 18 years old. And now I can see why people say Fruita is like the new Moab.
Okay, I'll take that as a recommendation for a riding vacation in Fruita. But I'm curious why you say the first 40K was some of the best trail you've raced on. What about the final 10K?
Oh, man. This single track sort of emptied into a wash, which I imagine most years is quite dry. This year, it was not. For most of the rest of the race, we went from riding actually down a creek, then up onto a sandy bank, and then back into the water, and then just literally rinse and repeat.
But I'm wondering, did your drivetrain survive all that?
Oh, it didn't sound like it did, but it did. You know, every Shimano part survived the test, and Lisa's did too. Although the sandy grinding sound in the drivetrain and rotors was pretty awful. But what I was really, really grateful for was my Shimano XT SPD pedals.
Oh, and I think I know where you're going with this. With all that grit and water you were riding through, with some pedals, it becomes a real challenge to clip in. And then a much more serious challenge to clip out.
Yeah, it was a great reminder of why Shimano pedals are the default. And as far as I'm concerned, the only choice for mountain biking.
The fundamentals of the SPD design is older than some people you'll see racing the Leadville course, and literal decades of refinement have made it as close to a perfect mountain biking pedal as can be made.
Yeah, for Leadville, for training at home in northern Utah, or, riding down a wet, sandy wash, any Shimano SPD pedal is going to serve you well. For my tastes, training with the XT pedals and racing with the XTR, definitely the way to go.
Check out all of Shimano's time-tested SPD pedals at bike.shimano.com. Leadville, the podcast for the 100-mile mountain bike race presented by Shimano. It is season 6, episode 14 of the show that breaks down, builds up, gets you ready, and freaks you out for the highest, hardest one-day mountain bike race in the country. I am Michael Houghton, hottie to most.
And I am Fatty, and we've got a tech-related episode for you, but this one is, let's say, a little more intimate than the suspension show we did a few episodes ago. This tech show is going to focus on your hands, and I'm excited for it. Like a lot of you, I have been having trouble with numbing, and I'm eager for answers.
Yeah, it's hard to find a Leadville racer who hasn't experienced discomfort through their hands during the race. It's probably why there are so many grip makers out there. In this episode, you will hear from a couple of industry leaders in the area of bike ergonomics. Now, you may not ride their grips now or ever, but their insights are worth a listen. Plus, we check in with a friend of the pod on picking handlebars because, and here comes the pun, bars, grips, and comfort go hand in hand.
Okay, that's it, Hottie. I'm creating a pun jar, and you got to put $1 in it. Every single pun. Yahoo!
What is a good strategy for staying ahead of the cutoff times?
What do the experts say about sleeping effectively at altitude, and what do you each do?
For Leadville, hardtail or full suspension?
Yeah, good question.
Leadville Frequently Asked Questions, LFAQs, our 12-step program for people with a belt buckle addiction.
Okay, well, so I've got 26 buckles. And so I'm wondering, are you calling this an intervention?
Sort of. I mean, you are a bit obsessed, so this is your therapy of sorts, telling others how to buckle in moderation. Our question this time is truly one from the digital device age. Anthony, and I'm going to really mess up your name, Anthony. You want to give it a go, Fatty?
Let's say Anthony Ippolite.
Ooh, I like that. On our Slack channel wonders, do racers carry their phones with them? Now, Back when you started racing the Trail 100, Fatty, were cell phones even small enough to put in your jersey pocket?
Okay. I admit, looking as we were writing the script for this, I went back and I checked what kind of cell phones were popular the first year I raced the Leadville 100, which was 1997. And the most popular phone is probably the one that I had. I do remember it. It was the Motorola StarTAC clamshell. You probably had one too. Almost everyone had one. And it was small enough to fit in a jersey pocket, but you would be a fool to bring it with you on the race because I remember there was no cell service at all in Leadville back then. I remember actually for the first few years in Leadville after the race, I would always get out my long distance Sprint card. We used to have special cards for making long distance phone calls, and I would call home from the Delaware Hotel on the landline.
That's good.
Now, things have changed, of course, but in some ways they are in some ways the same because the cell service available on most of the course is still not great. And there are places where there's none at all. And it's for sure not built to handle the number of devices, thousands of devices trying to connect all at once on race day. Getting a call through can be a problem. Getting data is an almost insurmountable problem. Honestly, just a little pro tip. We may have mentioned this before, but your best bet if you are a crew trying to reach another crew, text. SMS is small enough that it can kind of sneak through the very thin data pipe at Twin Lakes, while other info is just not going to make it. So with that in mind, you can tell I'm saying no. I don't carry my phone with me when I'm racing in Leadville because there is no guarantee that it's going to connect to anything. And so it's not a reliable way for people to pinpoint where I am. And it's not a sure thing for reaching out if I need to. And the fact is, you just don't need a phone out there. If there's an accident, you are never far from another racer or a course marshal, and they have radios to stay in touch.
I noticed between 21 and 2022, the data service actually got much better. In 21, actually, the texting was not great. Like, we were trying to text with Blake, who was crewing for us at Pipeline, and once the race got going, our text got really slow back and forth. But in 2022, it got better. The other thing I started noticing in 2022 is a lot more people trying to follow racers in real time using cell phones. And they were having okay success, I will say. The 5 times I lined it up at Leadville, I never carried my cell phone. I wanted my pockets for food only. And in those first years, there was no Garmin or live tracking for that matter, so why carry the thing, right? I had a cat eye or a polar watch, and I gave Mrs. Hoddy an estimate on when to look for me. And then even when Garmin and live tracking became a thing, I passed. The cell service, like Fatty said, just wasn't good enough to bother. Plus, I didn't want to lose my cell phone while bouncing down the goat trail or the Sugarloaf descent. The one time I did pack a cell phone during a race was at Crusher and the Tusher when I forgot to charge my Garmin. I used my phone and Strava to track the ride. Plus, I had a half frame bag then where I could safely stow my phone. I would never ride with a half frame bag at Leadville. Obviously, the phone is with me on training rides, but for races, I don't take any calls.
All right, Hottie, I want to talk about the feed for a minute. In most episodes of this show, we talk about nutrition and supplements you can get at the feed, but they actually carry a lot more than that. In particular, they have an entire Therabody store, including the incredibly popular and helpful Theragun Pro. This smart percussive therapy device, it's in a league of its own. It's famous.
Right. Through the app and sensors on the device, you'll be shown exact protocols to use to reduce specific muscle soreness, improve your mobility, and increase your relaxation.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever used one. I love it. It has this rotating arm, 60 pounds of force, and an industry-leading 2-year warranty, which is nice to have. It is the most advanced recovery tool of choice, both for professionals like Mel Rollins of Team 2024, who never goes anywhere without hers, and everyday people like the Hammer and me, who swear by ours.
Obviously, the feed is the best place to get the nutrition you're going to train and race with easily, automatically, and at a great price. But more and more, they're the one-stop shop for everything you need before, during, and after your big rides.
Yep, and our listeners get a great deal, $80 of annual credit. Go to thefeed.com/Leadville, register your email, verify your phone number, then get ready to spend your first feed credit of $20 right away. Our focus this show is in your hands. I've never done this race without my hands and arms just feeling smoked by the end. Very, a lot of fatigue, a lot of numbness. In fact, hand fatigue is something I get on long, hard training rides too.
Yeah, it really does come with the territory, doesn't it? I was a prolific hand cramper in my day, and cramps are just parts of your body saying, I'm tired. You're using me too much. Stop. Now, there are companies trying to do something about hand fatigue and pain, and we chased down several of them at Sea Otter. We start with the German brand SQ Lab that focuses on contact points. That's our whole business. We got with SQ Lab's Nina Gerhardt for some explanation on what causes our pain and what to do about it. When it comes to our hands, for the Leadville Trail 100, which is the event we talk about a lot here, a lot of riders complain about hand numbness, hand soreness. What is going on there? What's happening to our hands when we're out on these long days, long bike rides?
So, in general, of course, we all know that it's not natural for our hands to have pressure on them for long periods of time, especially in these extreme races. But also what comes to that is that usually regular handlebars and grips, first of all, the grips are usually just round, which does not match the form of our hands, which are more angular. And then second of all, handlebars are usually very wide and straight. And usually they're wider than our shoulder width. And so what happens is we get a very strong kink in our wrists, and that gives us a big strain on the outside of our hand, and then we have even more pressure on the hands. And so that's why we get a lot of different problems, from pain, numbness, and also problems in the shoulder and neck area.
Okay, so you've got a rider. That's me, Nina. That's exactly what I'm going through right now. What are some of the things you're going to tell them to do to try and find the right solution?
So the most important thing when it comes to the hands is always to look at the combination of handlebars and grips. So first of all, we say there's two main nerves that supply the hand. So there's the ulnar nerve, which supplies the two little fingers, and then there is the medianus nerve, which supplies the fingers from the thumb to the middle finger. And we say if you have numbness or pain in the two little fingers, then it is mostly down to the grips, because the grips do not offer enough damping on the outside of your hand to have the nerve supply those two outer fingers. And if you have pain on the inner three fingers, so thumb to middle finger, then it's mostly down to the handlebar, because the handlebar might be too wide and too straight, so the kink in your hand does not allow the medianus nerve to supply those inner three fingers. So the combination is always the most important thing.
Okay, so help me first of all pick the right handlebar. There's so many choices with sweep, up sweep, back sweep, rise. How do I know where to even begin with that?
So with handlebars, we have some general recommendations regarding the back sweep, but in the end, it always also comes down to your personal preference. So with handlebars, we do not have a fixed measuring system. We have handlebars that have 12 degrees back sweep and 16 degrees, which is both way more than regular handlebars, because regular handlebars come with usually 7 to 8 degrees back sweep. So even trying out the 12, if you're unsure in the beginning, if 16 would be too much, that's already going to make a huge difference. But for general orientation, we say 16 degrees back sweep is if you ride long distances, don't really go lots downhill or ride trails, so that you really have even more back sweep and more comfort on your hands. And the 12 would be if you also ride some more downhill and technical trail sections where you need to go really over your bike, and then the 16 degrees would be too much of a back sweep to feel safe when you're standing on a downhill ride.
And then we move to the grips, right? We're trying to match this up with the correct grip. So walk us through how we go about if we're really into, what a lot of people do at Leadville is they grab silicone grips and they put them on their bars and they say done, right? That's, to be honest, that's what's going on a lot there. And that's fine for some people, but for the folks suffering from from hand numbness and forearm pain and that type of thing, they probably need to search it out a little bit more than that. So walk us through, how to get into the right grips. What are we looking for? How do we get sized correctly?
So we have a grip size template which you can download online on our XQLab stores and also find at local dealers. And there basically you measure your hand size, and we always measure the size from the tip of the middle finger to the crook of the thumb, because that will be the widest area with which you're holding your grip. So that's going to be the measure to see how much the diameter of the grip would need to be. Our grips come in sometimes 2 different sizes for the enduro grip, and then 3 different sizes for more the endurance all mountain grip. So they're going to differ in diameter. And then also a general thing which all of our grips have is the shape. So as I already said in the beginning, grips should not be just round because our hands are angled. If you bend your fingers, you see that there's lots of different angles. And so our grips, first of all, have a flat surface area, which will be at the palm of your hand. So that's going to allow to distribute the pressure over a larger area while still allowing the grip to be slim enough to not be disturbing to your hands. And then the second thing we have at the front of the grips is like elevation, which is going to follow the inside of your fingers, and that's called the ergo bar. So that's going to help with also have a bit more comfort for your fingers while holding the grip, and also grip security when you're going through rougher surfaces.
And you have a race appropriate grip then, right? A lot of people get hung up. I'm a racer. I want to race. I need a race grip, Nina. Do you have a grip that goes along with that?
Yeah. So we do have a race-oriented grip. It's the 711R. It is based off of our 70X enduro grip, and on the basis of that, because that is our slimmest grip, which has the least amount of material, so it's not going to be disturbing if you ride a long time. But at the same time, it still offers the ergonomic shape, which I just explained, and enough material to have comfort. So we took the basic shape of the 70X and took away everything that was not definitely needed for racing. So we took away the clamp, we took away some material in some spaces where you're not gripping, like next to your thumb, for example, so that the grip is going to be really light and really reduced, but still has the most important measures that are going to help with the function.
How do gloves fit into the equation here as far as fit and comfort go? Should I be sizing with my gloves on, off? How do you size that up?
So, in general, riding with or without gloves is a very personal choice. But we have now finally gloves in our range as well. And the thing with our gloves, for example, is that they do not only come in different sizes from XS to XL. They also each size comes in slim and wide. So the goal is to really have a glove that fits as if it was grown onto your hand, basically. So we want to have a material which is thin enough to aid in the comfort that you want for a long ride, but not too thick material so that you have unnecessary friction, which is just going to hurt your hands in the long run.
Yeah. And when picking grips, if I'm in between sizes, which side do I err on?
So for mountain biking, we usually say to go a size down, especially if you ride with gloves, because if you have gloves on, of course, the diameter of your hand is going to get down a little bit as well. And also if you have a bit smaller grips, then you can have the grip just a little bit more loosely in your hand, especially if you're riding for long distances and also a bit downhill maybe. Then you just have a bit more movement and don't have so much material that pushes into your hands. But also with the sizes, if you're exactly in between, I usually let customers just test both and see what's their personal preference. Because some people, even though I would recommend to go a size down, they feel way more comfortable with going a size up, so that's going to be totally fine.
Well, Nina, a lot of us cyclists, especially mountain bikers, we suffer through all sorts of pain, and many of us believe, I'm in pain, I have numbness, that's just what I expect. But I guess we shouldn't, right? In the end, we should try and get rid of some of this stuff.
Yeah, I think the thing is mostly also with numbness, it is an alarm signal from your body, of course, but because it's not so present as pain, or it's not so quickly present as pain, we often tend to feel like, yeah, I'm just gonna ignore it, it's gonna be fine. But we do a lot of studies in the area of seeing how having long periods of numbness or like insufficient nerve and blood supply can affect especially the genital area, and also with the hands and wrists it's the same. And it does not have nice effects, let me tell you that. Okay. So I think it's important to always listen to what your body is saying, and always, even if you don't have problems now, if you're a rider who rides long distance races and also trains a lot for those long distance races, please just be sure to listen to your body and make sure to also prevent problems before they arise.
Well, Nina, thanks so much for your information and a little look at SQ Lab, and good luck with everything. And good luck to us, I guess, in the Leadville Trail 100.
Yes. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks again to Nina Gerhardt of SQ Labs. Again, that self-diagnosis that Nina talked about is a great place for anyone to start. If your little and ring fingers are getting numb, it's likely your grips. And if it's your first and middle fingers, then it could be your bars. By the way, I've been riding SQ Labs race grip. I had been riding Ergon GP style grips, the wing style grips before. The SQ Labs definitely feel lighter in that I can toss the bike back and forth a little quicker at the bars. They also do a nice job of preventing numbness and discomfort, but I think if I was having real issues, I'd stick with a wing-style grip. SQ Lab has some of those, as well as the aforementioned Ergon.
Handlebars are also part of the comfort equation. Getting the right back sweep, the right rise, the right width, all are very important. For a quick rundown on all of those, we got with our friends at Envy. Here's mountain bike R&D product tester, Derek Jensen.
Let's start with the basics, Derek. First, when I look at a set of handlebars, I see a lot of numbers. I see back sweep, up sweep, rise. Tell me what do all those numbers mean?
Depending on different bars, you have different styles, especially different styles of riding with like XC, downhill enduro, dirt jumping. So all those numbers play a big part into that. So when it comes to like back sweep is gonna kind of be with the bar angling back towards you. Depending on the bar, the more back sweep you have is actually going to be a little bit lighter on the wrist, give you a bit more comfort. Then as of rise is going to be a big part, coming more to your racing, to more playful and jumpy. So when you start getting a higher rise and up sweep, it's going to be a little bit more playful. You're not going to be as aggressive. So that's why you see on a lot of like more dirt jump bikes, and even if you jumped over to like BMX, it has those higher rise bars to get that really playful poppy feel, because it puts you more upright. And then once you jump into like the XC, that's when you start going to a little more of the flat bar with a less rise and up sweep on those, so you can get more of an aggressive climbing in front of the bike position.
And there's a difference between rise and up sweep, correct? Those are two different figures. Explain the difference between those two.
Yeah, so the rise is going to come from the stem measuring up, and the up sweep is actually going to be more mid-bar to the top of the grip.
And tell me about bar width now. That's the other number we see. We see 780, 760, all kinds of numbers thrown out there, right? Yep. So how do I get my bar width correct? What do I know? How do I know which one to choose there?
Yeah, so when it comes to bar width, there was a time when bars were getting clear up to 800s, but if you look into like riding, a lot of pros, what they're doing is they actually don't run that wide of a bar. So I'm 5'10", and my bar is supposed to be anywhere from a 760 to 780. I run 780. It's just a really good feel for me. So it actually goes a lot off your height, your shoulder width.
So there's also lots of different styles of handlebars. Yep. Envy has several selections to choose from. Yep. They have the M5, the M6, the M7, different series of bars. Yeah. Derek, I'm an XC racer. Should I just get an XC bar? Is it that easy?
Each bar is going to lay up different ways. So when you start with like the M5, it's going to be a really lightweight, compliant bar. It's not going to be as harsh. So when you jump up to like the M7, that's going to be a 35 mil clamp instead of your 31.8. So it's just going to be a really stiff bar. you kind of want to look at the different things, because when you get up to the bigger hits and stuff like that, that's why you see a lot of our downhill riders riding the M9, the M7, is because it's such a beefy bar. When you're riding like the XC, the M6, the M5 are great bars depending on what you're looking for, because you have that little bit more lightweight, compliant feel. So on those longer rides, it's not going to be as harsh. You're not going to get as bad arm pump.
Now, if they do have to trim their bars, though, we're all get a little weird when it comes time to cut carbon. Tell us how, is it as tricky as it sounds? Can the home mechanic knock it out?
Yeah, you can definitely knock it out. It's just using the right tools. So you definitely want to not use just regular hacksaw blades. So they make certain blades that is going to be actual carbon blade. Almost looks like sandpaper. So it's just going to get a lot nicer of a cut, and it's not going to leave as much like fraying of the carbon. Seeing carbon is a material, you want to use that nice carbon saw to get the actual good cut. So definitely recommend using the right tooling for it.
All right, Derek, thanks for your info. Appreciate it.
For sure. Thank you for having me.
And to check out the bars mentioned there, especially that M5 and M6, it's Enve, that's ENVE.com.
Okay, let's go even deeper on grips. For years, I rode with ESI grips. They're cheap, they're soft, they're cushy, they should be comfortable. You would think they'd be comfortable, but I have a lot of right-hand numbness with them. And I was telling Dave Zabriskie about this problem a couple of years ago. He immediately recommended Rev grips, which add just a little bit of suspension to a pretty firm grip. And they've made a big difference to me, Hadi. Is this me saying they will fix everything for everyone? Absolutely not. But they have made a meaningful difference to me. And they for sure last a lot longer than a set of ESIs. I think in the end, it's worth saying, try some new grips if you're not happy with the ones you got. And, I will say for myself, I don't plan to ever switch away from Rev grips.
Some of you may know that six-time winner Dave Wiens was an Ergon guy. He used one of their winged models, for which Ergon is mostly known. They make other grips with more traditional shapes as well, but the GP series of grips are their most popular. For a breakdown on the differences between winged grips and non, and some tips on positioning your grips, we checked in with Ergon's Jeff Kirchhoff at Sea Otter. First off, Jeff, I understand you're a Leadville veteran. Tell me about your Leadville experience.
So my Leadville experience took part, I believe, in 2008. This was the year that Dave Wiens beat Lance. Leadville was still kind of like, I wouldn't say in infancy, but it hadn't blown up to the scale that it is now. So it was a good day on the bike, and it was obviously all the media and everything was on the Dave Lance battle, which turned out to be quite the show. But yeah, the Leadville experience never disappoints, and had a good day on the bike.
And you live close, right?
Yeah. So I live about 30 miles due south in Buena Vista, Colorado.
So you know the terrain, you know what we're talking about here when it comes to riding in or near Leadville. So what has happened? I want to ask you just a general thing about what's happening to our hands and our forearms as we're beating up ourselves down trails. A lot of folks will say, Jeff, I'm getting numb, my hands are getting numb, my forearms are fatiguing. What is going on with us physiologically speaking?
Yeah, so a lot of it is, it's like cycling in general shouldn't be that uncomfortable. It's like you should be able to go out and do your ride, not have your hands hurt, have your butt hurt, whatever it might be. But with Ergon, as the brand is basically an ergonomic solution. So riding rough trails, you're compressing nerves, you're putting a lot of pressure onto your wrists, your shoulders, your forearms, et cetera, et cetera. But the cool thing with Ergon is they address all that. So it's, there's a handful of grips and stuff that are going to alleviate pressure and keep your fingers from going numb and your hands from going numb, and keep you comfortable for whether you're doing a 5 mile, ride across the city, or whether you're doing Leadville 100.
Is it the compression of a specific nerve in our hands that's getting pounded on mostly?
Yeah, so the most common nerve is the ulnar nerve. So it runs basically from the tip of the fingers all the way up through the wrist. So it runs right through the middle of the hand. So it's, giving a wide supportive platform for your hand to kind of sit on for the duration of whatever bike ride you might be doing it's what we're here to solve and to help out with. Mm-hmm.
I think one of the common things people might think of doing to help combat this problem is, I'm just going to get the softest grips I can find. Is that a solution? Is that the only solution?
No, there's all kinds of solutions, and that's the beauty of the bike industry is customers have choices as to stuff they can buy, and they can try and see what works for them. Softer's not always better. can be said for grips, it can be said for saddles, it can be said for tire pressure, suspension pressure, whatever it might be. So it basically comes down to finding something that's supportive, that's going to support your weight, it's going to support your hands, and things along those lines.
I know that Ergon has just, or recently, within the last year, introduced a silicone grip. So tell me the differences between silicone grips and I guess what some people might call rubber grips.
Yeah. So we just introduced a new cross-country lightweight grip this year that doesn't have a wing, it doesn't have an internal clamp, it has no lock-on clamp as well, or internal core, sorry. It's called the GXR, and it's actually not even silicone. It's a material that we produce in Germany. It's called air cell rubber. So what we do is we infuse all these micro air particles inside the rubber to basically give it that silicone grip feel. But with the positive to the GXR grip versus silicone grip is that it's a way more durable, and it stands up better to crashing or whatever else it might be. So. But yeah, the new GXR it's targeted at the cross-country scene, but it definitely, somebody that might not be a candidate for a wing grip or a supportive grip, the GXR is definitely a viable option for hand fatigue.
And then how is it different, or how are silicone or that type of grip different than like the other grips you folks make, or a rubberized grip that folks might find out on the market?
Yeah, so as with everything that Ergon does, it's like everything has a specific function. So like with the GXR and some of our popular other grips like the GA3 and the GS1 Evo, it's like all of these grips are shaped and tuned for their respective positions on the bike, as well as the respective usage that they might be doing. So as the name ergonomics implies, you're melding together the human body with a physical product.
Tell me in your mind, what's the ideal kind of hand position on our bars we should be trying to create as it pertains to the grips that we choose?
Yeah, so the idea is you don't want your wrist to be at like this really, I guess, aggressive angle, if you will. If you can keep your forearms into your hand at a level position, that's ideal. Of course, it's going to vary from person to person based on how they're positioned on the bike, but the general kind of rule of thumb is to keep the wrist as unbent as possible.
And as I'm looking at the sea of grips, including with Ergon, you guys have a large number of grips. Where do I start? I mean, do I grab, if I'm in the level 100, go straight for the XC grips, or is my field wider than that? Yeah,
the field's definitely wide open. It's like, with Ergon, it's like on our website, we have a grip selector where you can punch in kind of like your riding style, your riding habits, your discomforts, and it'll suggest an Ergon grip. But for the most part, with everything with cycling, it's like you have to ride stuff that makes you feel good. It's like you're touching something, riding something, demoing something. It's like you'll know if something feels good to you when you initially get on it and start riding it.
And sizing too. I mean, lots of grip companies have different sizes of grips. Is it as easy as going, well, I'm a big guy, I need the thickest, largest grip? Is it that simple, or is there more to it than that?
In all reality, it's personal preference. So it's like what I tell customers when they come to the booth here at Sea Otter and stuff. It's like if you touch something, like you touch one of our grips and it's like it gives you that kind of warm, fuzzy feeling, like this feels good in my hand. It's like that's the direction to go. But with that said, it's like also on the Ergon website is we have a grip selector, and it's based on hand size. It'll give you roughly, whether you need the small size or the large size. But ultimately, it's like the end consumer can basically be like, well, I prefer a thinner grip, so even though it suggests a large, I'm going to go with the small.
You folks are very well known for your, I guess what's called the winged grip. In fact, Dave Weens, I believe, won all of his Leadvilles with that grip. Some folks may shy away from it because they can't get a full wrap especially with their pinky and maybe the ring finger around it. Do you find that grip to be, is that a reason is that a good enough reason to avoid that grip, that you're a little afraid about how much contact you have with it?
Yeah, it's like some people shy away from the wing grips or Ergon grips strictly because they feel like they can't maybe descend steeper terrain the way they normally would with a round grip, but it all basically comes down to like wing adjustability. So it's like if somebody buys an Ergon grip and they feel like they're not being able to ride downhill on like a course like the Level 100, typically the wing angle is too high, so you're basically kind of sliding off the front of it, if you will. Usually I tell customers with ergon grips is to basically start with the grip level to the ground, or even maybe like 1 to 2 degrees low, drop down. So essentially you're kind of like leaning into the grip, if you will. It's still supportive, but you're not feeling like you're having to hold on really tight to like keep from falling off the front of the bike.
Yeah. Well, I know you said you're one and done at Leadville, but tell us, what grip did you ride at Leadville, and what would you ride if you were racing it in 2023?
Yeah, so when I did Leadville, let's see, it would have been 2008, the Dave Wiens Lance Armstrong battle year. We had a grip called the GX1, which we no longer produce because we've elevated we've basically evolutionized our grip technology. But if I was to go back this year, my grip of choice would be the GS1 Evo, which it's a sportier winged grip. So it's designed for more dynamic riding styles, designed for mountain biking, it's designed for fitness riding. It has a supportive wing, but it's not obnoxiously large. So it allows mountain bikers to be mountain bikers, but yet it gives the ergonomic support that you need.
Well, Jeff, we hope to see you back at Leadville. You're close enough. Come on up. Have a sniff around. You never know.
Heckle. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like we'll probably actually be there this year in the expos, so it's like people can come and check us out. So it'll be great.
Okay. So if you're having a problem with your grips, you might. I know last-second changes aren't the greatest ideas, but you never know.
Right.
Ergon will be at Leadville, hopefully. All right, Jeff. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thanks for your time.
Again, thanks to Jeff with Ergon, and Ergon has on its website some great diagrams on how our hand nerves can get pinched and how to angle grips properly to prevent pain and maintain control. Since we have Sea Otter on our mind for the second year in a row, Fatty, I saw our podcast jersey at the start line. There it was, that orange and black version we designed with DNA.
I love that one. It was one of the 2 designs we did with DNA last year. You know me, I can't make up my mind. So the folks at DNA said, well, why not both? And I was like, that sounds really good.
And again, at Sea Otter wearing our DNA jersey was none other than Andrew Rind. He raced the Fuego XL, came across in 6 hours, 43 minutes, scored a top 10 in his age category in that DNA jersey.
And we take credit for Andrew's finish. No, not really. And DNA can't either, but we can take credit for Andrew looking good. Actually, all the credit should go to DNA. They did the design, they sourced the clothing, and they created this fit that makes all of their kits look great.
And there's no reason to wait on us to produce a DNA kit. You can have DNA do something especially for you with your logos and your colorways. That is DNA's DNA, after all. They do custom and they do it right.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to make you put another buck in the tip jar.
I don't think DNA would think that the pun. They would go, that is excellent marketing right there.
Good marketing. Yes, it is. To get your custom kit started, go to DNAcycling.com. Tell them that the Leadville podcast sent you. The no arrow bars rule has left a lot of you in a tough spot when it comes to creating alternate positions in an effort to relieve your hands. Unfortunately, the no arrow bars rule, at least by the letter of the law, has also taken away other add-ons that can give your hands a break. Things like bar ins and even bar ends are technically not allowed.
So in addition to getting the right set of grips for you, you might consider a small pair of add-ons that should create no issues with the new rule on arrow bars, and that would be a set of togs. We got with Neil Harvey, the owner of the Thumb Over Grip System, also known as togs. You don't have to be too observant at the Leadville Trail 100 to see togs on many handlebars. Why do you think endurance riders find their way to togs? What is it about the togs? I don't want to call this a system. It's an add-on to your handlebar that endurance mountain bike riders find pleasing.
Well, anytime you spend a lot of time in the saddle like an endurance rider would, you're looking for a different hand position. So many, there's so many different takes on how you grab your bar on top of the bar, but none of them to a T are secure. You put a little hook there, all of a sudden you have a secure second hand position that you can ride top of the bar on the whole trail.
So tell me how togs or these little thumb hooks came to be. What was the impetus, the reason, the idea?
Yeah, so I'm kind of late to the whole biking market, and the way I came into it is as a commuter only, and my commute was a 16-mile canal trail basically. And so I would inevitably find my thumbs over the bars because you get tired of the fish grip. And, I would hit a puddle dip or a washboard and have that panic attack as your hands start to go over the bars. And so simply I was like, I need to go home and buy whatever product that is that solves that issue. Looked all over the internet. Of course, there was nothing there. So I'm like, I just need a hook, just something to keep me on top of that bar. Basically ended up ordering some moldable plastic that you put on your stovetop and fashion these real ugly thumb hooks, and it worked. And so basically from that point, I think our original team we got help with was the competitive cyclist team, and we had some real hokey prototypes, and they loved them, and they helped us develop those. And it turned into a real endurance product that we have today.
Now, so for the folks who have not seen togs before, give us just, I know unfortunately, we're working in an audio world here, so give us a description of where they mount and what they look like and what you're supposed to do with them.
Yeah, sure. So basically, the way they look is basically a resin product, a plastic resin product. It's just a hook that slides just inside of the grips. So basically, you rock out of your regular fish grip and into the thumb over position into the hook, and basically opens up that whole top of the bar in a secure manner. So the weight, they're essentially under 20 grams, so there's no real weight penalty.
And there's more than just the one alternate position you can get out of togs, right? So, like you said, you have the fist grip, which is your normal mountain biking 5-finger grip.
Correct.
In the alternate grip one with togs, you kind of wrap your thumb around the hook itself and create kind of a 4-finger with a hook thumb grip, but there's other grips you can kind of play with as well.
Yeah, just in general, getting up on top of the bar locks your wrist out into the bar. So I think that's why we find it comfortable, because you're no longer having any flex in the wrist. But yes, the common grip there would be just to be your thumb hooked around the hook. But yes, then you can go, I like to personally go into just placing my whole palm over the tog. It kind of has a natural indentation there, which is really comfortable. So I alternate right from the fist grip to the thumb grip and then to this palm grip, and then I'll usually go back, and just that 3-hand change up really keeps the hands fresh through a long ride. Different people have also grabbed it, with the bottom 2 fingers in a similar way that you would with an old bar end. That grip, a lot of people find that comfortable. And then there's a few others that you find when you're suffering in the saddle and you're looking for something to fidget with.
Yeah, there was this interesting stretch grip too you showed me, where you put your first and second fingers kind of around the tog too, and you could stretch out your forearm a little bit.
Exactly. That comes from one of our riders, Brandon Cross. We call it the cross grip, but you basically use your index finger and hook around the tog, and then you stretch out the whole forearm ligaments. It's really nice, especially in those long rides. I don't ride in that position a whole lot. You have plenty of control there, but it feels good to just be able to stretch it out. One nice thing we probably ought to mention is the climbing ability with the tog. They're not cinched on completely tight to the bar. However, it's just enough that you can get a little bit of climbing leverage like the old bar ends. So like on a long sustained climb, like we were talking Leadville, maybe like a Columbine, or even an incline like that, it's nice to have a little bit of leverage where you can just pull back on the togs. You can your body just likes that bit of leverage you get in the climb.
Mm-hmm. Now, if folks want to just try togs out, I can't imagine this is an expensive investment if you just want to try them out.
Exactly. They list at $25 at togs.com, and it's basically, we're all U.S. made products, so we're always in stock of the issues of the overseas issues. They're made out of Colorado Springs, and it's a full money back guarantee. We're a local company out of Salt Lake City, so.
And you've had some success too with pro riders. They've enjoyed these. they've enjoyed the various hand positions that help them succeed as riders on longer events, I'd imagine.
That's correct. Like the endurance market is really where this shines. Anytime you're looking for that second hand position, third hand position, where your hands are going numb, or you have old wrecks, or wrist issues, hand issues, arthritis, all those markets really do well.
How do we manage the cockpit traffic here? We've got, obviously we have shifter levers, brake levers, and then our togs. Is there any adjustment I need to make to my levers as far as reaching them is concerned?
So usually if a bike cockpit set up correctly, there's plenty of room for togs already. If it's something you're just getting off the showroom floor and they've stacked the components up against the grips, you'll probably want to move those anyway, just so your hands, reach the crotch of the lever properly. So usually if it's set up, you have plenty of room there. We also do sell, as part of the system, the thumb over grip system, a lot of people prefer a shorter grip, so you can rock right into togs without moving your hands inboard. So that was always the system part of it. It was a grip tog combo. But some people, especially if you have larger hands, the standard grip size works, length. So there's a little something there.
Oh, so from the site I could get grips, ESI style grips that match the togs and give me kind of that same bar coverage as I would with just grips themselves? Exactly.
So ESI makes a custom grip at 115 millimeter length for us, which is very nice that they do that. And that's always been our ideal grip. However, if you have larger hands or whatever, just a standard 130 millimeter grip would work for you.
And for our mountain bike folks who have drop bars or drop bar bikes, you do togs specific for drop bars as well.
Yes, we're really excited about this for gravel and road. It's been a new product for us in this last year, and super control and comfort in the drops. Really, we say it helps you rediscover the drops. A lot of people don't maximize that aero position. But as far as the control goes, you're no longer grabbing the drops like you would otherwise, especially if your hands get sweaty or, you're sliding around down there.
Well, thanks for introducing togs to us, and I'll do a togs count next year in Leadville, too.
Yeah, you'll see a lot there. I appreciate it.
Thanks again to Neil Harvey, owner of Togs. I've tried Togs, Fatty. They work great with round-style grips like your favorites or your previous favorites, the ESIs. Currently, I had been riding the Ergon winged grips, and because I'm getting relief from those grips, I don't find the togs completely necessary, but they go on easy enough, so really not a big deal to experiment. There's much more tech to come this season. We'll be taking on one of the most popular and highly debated topics when it comes to Leadville, and that's tires. So look for that in your feed later this season. For now, let's put a wrap on this one. Fatty and I are on social media, most notably Instagram for me, where I'm at Michael Houghton.
And most notably Strava for me, where I'm Fat Cyclist. First name Fat, last name Cyclist. Give me a follow.
You'll find both Fatty and me on the Facebook Leadville 100 Mountain Bike Participants page. And if you want to have a deeper conversation, join our Slack channel. You'll find a link to it over at leadville.fm/Slack.
Please, if you like this show, go to wherever you listen, give us a 5-star rating, and write us a review. To see all the ways you can find this show, go to leadville.fm. For now, good luck in your riding, your racing, and your training. Thanks for listening, and we're going to see you in just a few short months at the starting line.